The Perfect Man is a 2005 romantic comedy starring Hilary Duff at the peak of her fame. She brings her signature charm to the role of Holly, a young woman who notices her mother's been a little down in the dumps lately, so she decides to cheer her up by seducing her. So, my channel's mission is to exalt girly films, and usually that means ones that are good on purpose. The Perfect Man falls under a different category. It's good in a lot of ways, but I'm quite certain that they're completely unintentional. It fails most of its goals, and I understand why it has a 6% on Rotten Tomatoes. This is not the heartwarming romantic comedy it bills itself as, nor is it fun for the whole family. Yet, I still recommend it as a genuinely enjoyable watch, just not in the way it was intended. I'm not joking or exaggerating when I say, The Perfect Man is scarier than most horror films, more suspenseful than most suspense films, more perplexing than most mysteries, and grosser than most gross-out comedies. And without trying to be, this film gives you a deep look into abnormal psychology, and I don't mean the characters, I mean the writers. My one-sentence summary of The Perfect Man is, its writers have no concept of basic human emotions. They completely miscalculate how the audience will feel at each moment, and the characters they have written have little connection to actual humanity. It's why typical viewers hate this movie. It's also why I like it. Very few movies make me feel a fraction of the emotion this one does. If you're thinking you might want to watch this movie, now is probably the best time, as I've finished the spoiler-free part of the video. I'm about to walk through the movie bit by bit, covering several points that are much more effective if they come as surprises. Pause if you need to, don't if you don't. The opening of the movie is honestly successful and on its intended level of setting up an earnest romantic comedy. The first line of dialogue has a clever double meaning.
Holly, you gotta open up.
Of course, she's talking about the door, but this is also a character in sight. Holly needs to open up as a person. She needs to trust people more, and let them into her heart. In case you think I'm reading too much into it, my theory is confirmed before the scene even ends.
I mean, when you move around a lot, you just don't let yourself get attached.
And it continues through the whole movie. The cast is likable, and we have acceptable lighthearted humor with some wordplay in the car, and the mom's incessant, misguided flirting. The tension of both the mother and the daughter yearning for something is an alluring premise with a lot of possibilities. And the angst that comes from moving too often is a proven plot device. One of the most common complaints about this movie is that the mother's reason for moving, to recover from ex-boyfriends, is a bit illogical. To that I say, of course it is, but so what? Hyperbole and absurdity are staples of the genre. It's part of what makes these movies so fun. They put us in worlds where the whole school cares about your every move, and casts daily votes on how attractive you are. And every character overreacts to everything. Of course the mother is going to relocate every time someone breaks her heart. I can accept it. Every state only has one eligible bachelor. So what? People also complain that she shouldn't be able to afford a New York City apartment or a big suburban house as a single mother of two who works in a bakery. Again, so what? That's every movie. I'm still on board with the director's intended film. There are some failed jokes, like a lot of these movies have.
I don't do yearbook photos. You have no choice. It's like taxes and death. Mandatory thing.
But there are decent ones too, which is all you can really ask for.
You never eat the cakes?
And so far, every time the movie has us cringe, such as at her dorky coworker.
Did what hurt?
Oh, when you fell, from heaven.
Or the mom being too desperate.
I also wondered if you thought of monthly mixers for single parents.
It's on purpose. We're supposed to cringe. It feels like the writers are in control. Things get a little weird when Uncle Ben gives advice to teen girls about how to pick up women.
For a woman, a red rose. But if you really want to knock her socks off, you give her an orchid.
And a little weirder when Holly uses his advice on her mother. She buys her mother orchids with a forged note from an imaginary perfect man based on Ben. She says it's to cheer her up, and perhaps it will, but this makes the audience wonder, what is Holly's long-term plan? The mother will see the flowers, and think an unknown man is interested in her, and then what exactly? I'll pause so you can think of how this is supposed to work out over time. Did you think of anything? I didn't. We're now in the part of the film where things get increasingly odd and the writers no longer feel in control. To us, it seems creepy that Holly's classmate, despite having never really talked to her, is drawing detailed pictures of her as a fantasy character. But the director frames it as cute and romantic.
That woman is on a horse. You're not on a horse. That's a completely different person.
The same is true when Holly's flirtation with her mother increases. And yes, the movie acknowledges that it's weird, but listen to how that admission happens.
I know what I'm doing borders on delusional. But what can I say? Desperate times call for desperate measures. Trust me, if you met Lenny, you'd lick the envelope and lend me a stamp.
The fun music in the background, we're supposed to agree with Holly and approve of what she's doing. In this scene, she's reading a love letter to her mom that she wrote. It's icky, and we're still only ankle deep. This movie's going to get a lot weirder. Holly and her mom, Jean, start exchanging emails, getting even more flirty, and we can't stop wondering. No, wondering isn't the right word. Fearing. We can't stop fearing. How far are these messages going to go? What is Holly going to see the next time she checks her email, when she gets a love letter written by her mom? Put yourself in her shoes. Do you want to read that? Your mom getting all romantic? With you? But you have to, because it's part of the plan. The plan to... Where is this going again? What is Holly hoping will happen? What is the exit strategy exactly? The emails stay chaste and innocent, thankfully, but how long will that continue? How long can it? I know that catfishing is a popular subgenre of girly movies. Hilary Duff herself was in another one you may have heard of called The Cinderella Story.
Laugh out loud.
There's even a low-budget independent girly movie about catfishing titled Long Distance Princess. But there's a big difference between those movies and this one. In those, we get to indulge in this forbidden fantasy of getting secret, intimate details from this inaccessible person we have a crush on. Or in The Clique, our protagonist uses catfishing to destroy the social status of her enemy. In The Perfect Man, we're indulging the fantasy of getting sex from our own mother? Who exactly has that fantasy? Take that question with you into this next scene because it's a doozy. Psycho has the shower scene, King Kong has the Empire State Building, Jezebel has the Olympus Ball, North by Northwest has the plane chase, and The Perfect Man has the instant message scene. Right smack in the middle of the film, 50 minutes into its 100-minute running time. Holly, disguised as the perfect man, Ben, has a romantic I am conversation with her mother, Jean. This is when the audience truly starts white-knuckling it. Every frame of this scene, we are standing on a razor's edge. While dangling above an abyss, we are at all times one sentence away from utter terror.
What are you doing?
Oh, I'm just slinking onto the couch in my nightie. Want me to take it off?
About what?
About your big strong hands and how they'd feel on my body. Obviously the scene doesn't go there, but all we can think about is how that's exactly where it would go if this happened in real life. We can't help but think about it, because in the middle of the scene, romantic music starts playing. We're supposed to think this is romantic, not revolting, not nauseating, romantic. And it gets even worse. This split screen shot, it looks like they're sitting across from each other at a romantic dinner. Mother and daughter, gazing lustfully into each other's eyes over candlelight. And that's not the only split screen shot in the scene. This one is even closer up. It looks like they're about to kiss. Look at Holly here leaning in and tilting her head to kiss her mother. Do you see what I mean about the director just having no idea how we feel? The scene's not even done yet. Look at how touched Holly is by her mother's seduction. Just think about this. You thought I was exaggerating earlier, didn't you? Finally, we're taken off the razor's edge. But it's not too long before we're put back on a different one. Here's good old teenage Holly, visiting her friend's uncle's house, by herself, and once again we are at all times just one sentence away from catastrophe. Her goal is to stall him so he doesn't accidentally ruin her plan, but does this scene feel a little creepy to anyone?
How about you have a seat and I get you soda? Is that okay?
No, it's not okay. I'm 16.
How do you feel about the moon?
I think it's almost as beautiful as your big round eyes.
Do you think that it's a little piece of magic that comes out every night, even when times get hard, to remind you that every day holds potential for beauty?
Why, yes, I do. Let's talk more about the moon while lying down.
What has Amy told you about me?
She told me you like to have fun. Oh god, now look, she's making room for him on the couch. This is so unnerving. Giving credit where it's due, there is one moment of genuine humor in this scene. Listen to how Holly tries to stall Ben here, with some slight edits on my part.
What did you want to know?
It's nothing. It's just... I'm confused about who I am and what my purpose is in life, what college I should go to, if I should even go to college. I'm considering getting my nose pierced and my belly button, but my mom said she would totally kill me if I did that, so now I'm just thinking about getting a tattoo. I'm really confused.
Not bad, right? She's asking for help with one thing, which is actually 10 things. I dig it. Only, that's not how it happened. Let me show you the lines I took out.
I'm going through my teenage years, and that's confusing. I'm trying to resist peer pressure to do all sorts of things that I know that I shouldn't do, but some of them I kind of want to do, if you know what I mean. I'm considering getting my nose pierced and my belly button and 9 other parts of my body. Now I'm just thinking about getting a tattoo on my back. But it wouldn't even really be considered my back because it'd be so low that you wouldn't even be able to see it.
Oh, Ben, you mature, older man. What can you tell me about my changing adolescent body and these adult activities my friends want me to do? If you know what I mean.
If you know what I mean.
What could have been funny now just feels creepy. And that's a weird pattern in this movie. There's all this odd, pervy stuff they keep throwing in.
You have got to be kidding me. This isn't going to cover anything.
That's exactly the point.
Or here's some completely unnecessary innuendo in an earlier scene at the bakery.
Coffee can be hot, searing deep into your flesh. You're tender, so easily hurt flesh. So be sure to ask for a protective sleeve when you...
Protective sleeve? I think the intent is to sneak in some jokes for the adults that go over the kids' heads, but it doesn't come across that way. It just feels slimy and gross. The movie takes a break to remind us how nonsensical its own premise is. Holly just knows Ben is perfect for her mom because they're the only 2 people in New York who like crossword puzzles.
Your uncle does crossword puzzles in pen. There is such a thing as the perfect man. And I know exactly who it is from my mom. Who? Your Uncle Ben. What? And now because of my stupid scheme, they can never meet.
She has a point. I thought her plan had no goal, but now I realize it's just directly preventing its own goal. Because she's used Ben's photo during her catfishing, she can never actually introduce the 2. Do you want some more weird stuff? Good news. Adam has to call the mother of the girl he has a crush on to break up with her. That already is probably sounding pretty uncomfortable to watch, and yet we somehow get something far, far worse. For the 3rd time, we're put on the razor's edge because in the middle of the phone call, Adam realizes he can't break up with Jean. Jean loves Ben too much, and Adam can't break her heart. Instead, he professes his love to her, to the mother of the girl he has a crush on. And yes, I know he does it as Ben, not himself, but just imagine doing this. Imagine you're him. Or imagine you're anyone in this movie. Imagine you're the mom and your own daughter has been flirting with you. And then her friend from high school, a teenage boy, starts flirting with you. And they both work. You are successfully pulled in by 2 teenagers. The scene mercifully ends, and we don't get more weird stuff until the very next scene. Holly angrily yells at Adam for deviating from the plan, and he shuts her up by forcing a kiss on her.
Brain, I can't even begin to...
I don't recommend trying this in real life, but once again, this movie frames it as sweet. We're supposed to look at Holly here and wish she would open up to Adam, like that first line of the movie, remember? Holly prints out all of the emails and IMs, just knowing that if she shows them to Ben, he'll go, "Oh, sweet, this teenage girl was flirting with some woman for me, while pretending to be me. Now I'll just finish what she started by leaving my fiancé on our wedding day." I actually have to shift gears to talk about the wedding scene. It's another thing people often criticize, but I sincerely call it one of the most successful scenes in the movie, and yes, for its intended purpose. Holly ruins a wedding for no good reason. It's great, it's anarchic fun, it's like an old screwball comedy. I'm into it. No jokes for me, it's a fun scene. Ruining austere events like weddings and funerals has been a staple of comedic movies for about a century now. It's one of the least crazy things in the movie, honestly.
You know what, you guys? I'm looking for the Silverman wedding. Sorry. Carry on. My bad.
Unfortunately, watching that scene is kind of like watching someone with dementia have a brief moment of lucidity. It tricks you into thinking they'll be okay again. But the moment leaves as quickly as it came, because look at what happens after the wedding. It's what I'll call the fourth razor's edge scene. Holly opens up to her mom and admits everything. The mom gets mad, understandably, but not that mad. Starting from the mother's reaction, they talk about it for less than 30 seconds before changing topics. And never coming back to it. Ever. You'd think one or both of them would start therapy after that bombshell, but no, they resolved it in under half a minute. You know what, if they're done with it, so am I. Let's hop off of that razor and onto the fifth one. In this scene, Jean turns the tables and catfishes Ben for her daughter. Oh, Adam, you teenage boy, can't you see how... Only, this time there's no discovery and no angry action. The catfishing just works. Holly and Adam patch things up thanks to her mother's meddling, which, again, is framed as a totally helpful and healthy thing to do. Imagine how you would react if your mom did this to you when you were in high school. Probably not well. You know, this movie actually has quite a pro-catfishing stance. Not only does the mother's catfishing work for her daughter, the daughter's catfishing works for the mother. Remember my joke earlier about how Ben would be so into the emails forged with his name? Well, he is. He's into it. He finds Jean to ask her out. And she says yes. This movie has two catfishes, and both of them work out great. Holly gets her perfect man, and Jean gets her perfect man. So what's the message to all of this? The perfect man is out there. You don't have to settle for the guy who cheats on you, or the loser who invites you to a Styx cover band. You can find your perfect man if you just look hard enough.
There is such a thing as the perfect man.
There is such a thing as perfect. And it's out there. Don't give up, you'll find it.
Or, as the director puts it himself,
the movie isn't about perfection, it's about how there really is no perfect man.
Okay, you're wondering who to trust. Do you trust the person who directed the movie? Or do you trust me, a random person who merely watched the movie? I understand if you're leaning toward option A. But before you decide whether this film is understood by its own creator, I offer you two arguments. One, consider how often throughout the movie a scene has the exact opposite tone of what we feel. A sure sign the director is not aware of what he's creating. And two, the strongest argument I can give, watch the movie for yourself. See if you can find one single thing Ben or Adam ever do wrong. And I don't mean things you don't approve of in real life, like forcing a kiss on someone who's angry at you. I mean find one thing that makes either of them imperfect in the movie's eyes. Because I've watched this 3 times already, and I can't find any. They really are the perfect men. So, a quick outro. Herschel Gordon Lewis once said, "The only crime a movie can commit is to be boring." For all of The Perfect Man's oddities, I have to say, it is never boring. It dredges stronger emotions out of me than most successful movies do, so how much does it matter whether it was on purpose? Let this movie into your heart.